What's this? What's this? Everyone is dressed in green. What's this? Conversations most obscene. What's this? The streets are lined with chubby frat boys puking at bad jokes. They keep on laughing. What the holy fuck is happening? What is this? What's this?
Actually, it wasn't a hit at all. It did one preview before it opened, and I think from that preview, Disney basically learned there was no audience for this movie and kids hated it. And so all merchandising was pulled, and the marketing suddenly shifted from what was going to be towards a young audience to try to find an adult audience or almost sell it like it was wrong. They had no idea what to do with it. The preview was a disaster.
Here, I'll show you my claymation project, okay? Now, I've been working pretty hard on this, and I think it's really good. So just hang on to your hat, okay? Okay, here it goes. Oh, how great. Did you pause it? No, hang on. Oh my God. That's the whole thing. That's 3 weeks of work. You're gonna be okay. No, I'm not. You see, in my head, I thought that was really, really cool. In fact, I emailed Leslie 2 days ago and I compared it to Avatar, Chris, and how can it not be longer?
Now it's time to go behind the scenes at the making of the latest dark fantasy from the strange mind of Tim Burton, the filmmaker who gave us Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, and Batman. Now he's using animation like you've never seen before. So open your mind to what is most definitely a Tim Burton movie and let yourself go to a place where every day is Halloween.
Got a test late last week. It was a false negative. Go to class or a restaurant. Every great American loves to work.
Moisture in the air, it can linger anywhere. Probably best just to mask up for.
Yeah, right!
I'm in QAnon.
Democrats.
Drink baby blood.
Open the bar.
Now where's our wine? Our generation was the best generation. A little flu never made us cry.
Look inside of me and see what you will see.
America during COVID-19.
I dropped out of high school. This virus is... La 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 la.
Beautiful harmony, stunning.
This is Halloween.
This is Halloween. Welcome to welcome to the most emo episode of this podcast we'll probably ever do. The most seen, most goth. The Venn diagram.
Hot Topic did sponsor our episode for today. Thank you, Hot Topic.
Thank you. Shout out to Hot Topic. Hashtag ad.
And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
And most importantly, happy Thanksgiving. Happy belated Thanksgiving. It was just a few days ago. Great. I have been watching, or not watching, sorry. I have been listening to this music all day. So it is fully, I'm all in.
Like
I'm
a true
all
stan.
in on
The listeners
Danny
can't
Elfman.
see it, but Adam's eye makeup is so dark and mysterious
mysterious,
now.
heavy.
Your long Sally wig is flowing.
The Sally of it all. I mean, RJ, okay, so here's the comedy of the challenge for this week. Last episode, Molly was adamant that I had yet to do a challenge, even though I was
confidently wrong as
this
always.
feels like I recently did this, and in fact, I had. So we can either do RJ's turn, which I think should probably be what happens, or we can do punishment for Molly getting confidently wrong the last time. I would say
I do love the running bit that it just keeps being avoided. I just keep not doing it. Something always happens where it's like, oh yeah, I just haven't done one. That's so weird.
It's like a Jimmy Kimmel, Matt Damon situation where RJ just never does the summary.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think it's fitting that RJ. I don't know why it's fitting, other than it's just his turn.
My turn.
It's fair.
It's fair.
Fair.
It's egalitarian.
Great.
RJ, you have 1 minute to tell me the entire plot of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Starting now.
Okay, Nightmare Before Christmas is about this like really skinny skeleton named Jack Skellington, who's like the pumpkin lord king, who is just so tired of Halloween. Like he's like, I've been doing this for years. I need something new, something fresh. He ends up stumbling across a new Halloween world called holiday world called Christmas, and decides to try it. And just like any other tall, skinny white man, he says, "Oh yes, I am very highly qualified to do this. I know exactly what he's doing just from watching him and doing like Googling essentially with the instruments that I have, and ends up ruining Christmas, but then realizes the error of his ways, like a true white savior, and saves Christmas and Halloween for his own Halloween town, I guess."
And that's 1 minute. I would like to note that you didn't even mention Sally, and yet it was inconsequential to whether or not anything happened with the plot. And that's how I feel about Sally, unfortunately.
Yeah. I did make if we're jumping into Sally, I did make the note that I was like, you could also sell this as a Sally movie, and I think I would have bought it too. Like I felt like she had like a good, not equal weight, but she had a really good, like,
she has a
firm hold of the movie.
There is a sizable portion of the film that is dedicated to Sally's plot.
Yeah.
And I do think that she has like, there was like a thing that I saw where it was like, if Jack is the fun of the film, Sally is the heart of the film, which I was like, that's very kind. Yeah. However, there are some issues I have with Sally's lie.
Firstly, she doesn't make a change, right? She wants to escape from the beginning, and then she continues to want to escape her captor. And also, it's just a story about men not listening to her throughout the entire plot, and that's just like what continues to happen. And then one kisses her at the end. Men never listen to her, but one time one kisses her. That's what happens to Sally in this movie.
Truly, like even when it got to that point where Jack's like, wait a minute, something's weird. I vaguely remember someone telling me that this was a bad idea. Where is Santa? Like it was a funny, like, oh, and obviously like he saves the day at the end. So I was like, okay, all right.
Technically Santa saves the day. What is your history with Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas?
So I remember being, I want to say in like middle school, and all of the sudden Hot Topic t-shirts appearing with Nightmare Before Christmas on it. And it was like this moment. It was this moment that has happened to me many times in my lifetime, where all of a sudden a pop culture thing appeared where everyone was like, we've all been liking this whole time, and I just didn't know about it, which is primarily because my parents are just nerds. Like I always feel like people are going to think I grew up in some weird conservative religious household when I say like, I feel like I missed a lot of pop culture media when I was a kid. That's like primarily because we were just watching Poirot every night instead of like movies. And so I remember being
How
quite
much was
baffled.
your contribution to PBS, by the way? How much did your family contribute?
I'll have to tell my dad and ask what the monthly was. But I know that we had the canvas totes, so I know that we were members.
We had a sizable donation.
And you can thank Molly Matini for the show Zoom. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, Molly.
Love Zoom. So anyway, the point is, I feel like I missed it, and then all of a sudden it was like everyone was obsessed with it, and it became this part of the like emo / scene subculture, which I don't know the difference between those two things, which I'm sure will be clear in this conversation.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure we will get many a tweet.
Yeah, people will have opinions, but I do think I watched it. I think for the first time in like high school or something. Just like I think it was on TV one night, and I was like, "Oh, I can finally know what this is," and I liked it. But I don't have like a strong emotional connection to it because it kind of hit me when I was older, and I didn't engage with it in the same way. So that's my relationship.
So when was that? So when was that first time you watched it? It was in. You said it was high school.
I think in high school. I'm gonna say like 16, probably.
Okay. Mine was Adam made me watch it when we moved to Orlando.
Oh.
So we moved to Orlando, and I don't even remember. I want to say it was because like they started doing like I think we were going to Not So Scary. Not that we were like gonna meet Jack and Sally, but I think it was like in preparation to go to our first ever Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. You made me watch it, and I was like, wow, this music slaps. That was my like big takeaway, was that like love this music. I just also knew like before that, I think like I just knew that Jack Skellington existed. I didn't remember like how I knew. I didn't know when it just came to me, but I just knew that a character named Jack Skellington was something in pop culture.
Can you explain what Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party is?
Absolutely. It is a separate ticketed event where Magic Kingdom transforms into Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, where you can join Mickey and his friends as they celebrate Halloween.
I'm gonna puke.
There are trick-or-treat stations spread all around Magic Kingdom.
RJ had never been trick-or-treating in his life before
true.
this time when we went.
Wow, that's exciting.
So you could go to like a station and get, you could literally it's just a line and then they give you candy. But Adam was like, you have to say trick or treat.
I made RJ say trick or treat.
So we went and was like, trick or treat. So, that was fun. And then there were some like special stuff. So like there was like a villains dance party you could join in, or there was a special like Hocus Pocus themed stage show in front of the castle where they brought out like different Disney villains to help whatever. And then there was the Halloween parade, which probably was I think is like the highlight of the event. But they had like different Disney characters, like how they celebrated Halloween. So like
Gotcha.
And there was a headless horseman. That's like the big draw.
I'm also sure that we'll get into this with the show facts, but just so I understand, was this a Disney movie when it came out, or has it since been acquired by Disney?
I saw this note on the Google Doc and I had no idea. So
Adam, if it's too complicated, we can put a pin in it and come back to it. But
we'll come back to it.
Okay.
It is not. We'll come back to it. So I saw this movie. I had a babysitter until I was like in first grade. And she like would go all out for Halloween and Christmas. Like she was like full, every room had decorations for both holidays. And as a kid, I know in the Little Shop episode, I talked about how I was like very scared of the plant, but like I, as a little kid, really liked spooky. Spooky was my thing. I didn't like scary, but like fun.
Scooby-Doo, pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns.
Tim Burton. So I saw this movie when I was like very young. She had a VHS copy of it, and I had to be like the year before kindergarten. So what would ostensibly be preschool. I think I saw this movie. This is 93. This is the year the movie comes out is 1993. So that would have been probably like 95 or 95. And I like genuinely like remember it. I remember I remember the like when the hill unfurls and he like walks down the hill. I like specifically remember that. And I remember Dr. Finkelstein, I think, is like the most memorable character in my brain, which is like very strange. But
also
I did
checks
not
out that you would remember the character actor, the character role.
Absolutely, the role I was born to play. But I didn't own the film, so I only saw it, I think, that one time, and then I didn't see it again until like I rented it in high school or something like that, just to like rewatch it.
And were
then I
you
was
at
and then I was
all-
like, it's good, but it's fine.
Were you at all scared of it when you watched it pre-K?
No, because I was thinking about this because I was like, I would have been around the same time that I watched Little Shop, and I was like, why was I scared of Little Shop, but I wasn't scared of this? And I think it's because it is so not believably our world. Like, it is so removed from anything that's real that I was like, oh, this is all just fake. Like, there's nothing scary about it at all.
Cool.
So, because this is like off topic, but like my mom called me 2 nights ago and she was like, well, and I was like, hello. And she was like, I just finished listening to the Cats episode. She did proceed to give me some notes.
Oh no, Nan!
Which we have to stand. But then I was like, oh, did you hear the trailer at the end and what the next episode is? And she was like, yeah, it's going to be Little Shop. And I was like, yeah, I'm excited. I was excited to see it because I'd never seen the movie before. And she was like, yes, you had. And I was like, I don't think so. And she was like, I remember that we went to see it at LaSalle because my sister's friend was in it and I got scared of the plant and that's all I remember. And she was like, I think I know I rented it. I think you were in the room when I watched it. And I was like, I probably wouldn't have been because the plant freaked me out too much. So I probably wouldn't have wanted to watch the movie version of it. And she was like, maybe so, but I think you were there. And I was like, okay. So this is all retconning to say, I apparently have
You
seen
apparently did see
the
it.
movie before, and that's
But fully blocked it out.
Suffice to say, my mom has notes for the pod.
Thanks,
but she thought it
Nan.
was great. She thought it was.
Should
great.
we have our
And
own email rule so Nan and Rita can have a direct line to us for
line.
notes?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, my mom does already have a direct line to me, which is my phone number. But yeah, does Nan have any notes for RJ and I that we should get live on air?
They were like technical editing notes, and I was like, "Cool, thanks, Mom."
We're off the hook, Molly.
Oh, thank God.
But she did say she was like, because she's like listened to me and RJ do a bunch of stuff, but she was like, I've only ever heard Molly do the Hello Dolly episode, and she's so intelligent, and I was like, okay.
And it's for
you two
knuckleheads.
dolts.
You two knuckleheads.
It's pretty impressive that you're able to sustain a conversation with this woman. So anyway, thanks, Mom. Love you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Nan.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, my mom's notes are like, I can't believe you have friends that are this fun, is like the...
Oh.
Neither can we, Molly. Should we? This is so weird that I don't have like a musical to talk about.
This
like
is the musical.
A predecessor to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The origin
This
story
is
is
our
only
first-
a poem.
Yeah, this is our first like movie musical that was made to be a movie originally. And I would say probably couldn't be a stage adaptation, but maybe we want to discuss that later.
I thought about this.
I
thought about this while I was watching it. But yeah, so the movie is technically based on a poem that Tim Burton wrote when he worked as an animator for the Walt Disney Company. He did not have a long tenure with the company. He was fired or let go, I guess, in 1984, I believe. And then it was like after that, I don't even know how he jumped from animator to directing Batman and Beetlejuice, but like go off Queen, I guess. It was probably Edward Scissorhands, honestly, that like really cemented it in all honesty. But he had written this thing, and then technically because he had been an animator at the time, Disney had the rights to his idea. So he like came back to them in the late 80s and was like, hey, I'm still really interested in this thing that I had come up with. And he had done like sketches for and like kind of a story treatment for it. And they were like, well, you know, we'd be open to doing something since you are a critical box office success at this point. So he was working on I think the Batman sequel, whichever one that is. Not the one with the second one.
Batman, Here We Go Again.
Batman the Squeakquel. And another film. So he was like, well, I don't have time to direct it, but I know a guy who can. And so like he was just the executive producer of this film, even though like it feels so Tim Burton that it's like when you find out that it's not directed by him, you're like, well, that's absolutely insane. So that's like there is like the poem. You can find the poem online. Disney's also like sold the poem as like a book too, so you can like find little like physical copies of it. But it's literally like a poem that was inspired by obviously the like very classic Old Saint Nick poem, and then also the Grinch and like those like TV those like stop motion.
Yeah.
Yes, the like 60s, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Frosty the Snowman. And
I would say the entire time I was watching Nightmare Before Christmas, I kept going back to the Rudolph movies because I was like, this is like the style, beat by beat, like how they are portraying Halloween in the style of the Rudolph movies.
Well, and also, yes, and also just technically, and we're going to have an entire conversation on like the technical achievements of this film, but like going from those like 60s stop motion movies where it's like very stilted, very wooden, to the fluidity that this movie has is like insane.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where I was watching this movie and I was like, when you have to truly think about the fact that these are all photos, it made me want to throw up. Like I was like, there is nothing I care about enough in my life as passionately as these people care about stop motion animation. I would kill myself.
I thought about that. I watched the behind the scenes coverage of it, and I was like, there is nothing that I care this much about in this world. I would throw myself into a creative project. I'm writing a dissertation, and I could not make a stop motion movie.
Right. Exactly. I mean, technically, you're writing a dissertation, started a podcast so you could avoid writing your dissertation, but that's also fine.
I'd love to know what the side projects were that people worked on during Nightmare Before Christmas just to do anything else with a second of their time.
Probably sleep. That would be my guess. So anyway, it all has these like very obvious inspirations when you like watch the film that are very apparent but like well curated, I think. And then they like decided to make this movie. So it was like originally going to be in the original teaser trailer for this film. It is a Walt Disney Pictures. It's not a Walt Disney Animation Studios, but it's a Walt Disney Pictures film. And then Michael Eisner, who was CEO at the time, was like, I think it's too dark for kids. So they released it under Touchstone. But then in later years, they re-released it under the Walt Disney Studios banner. So like that.
So originally it didn't have the Walt Disney like cast Tinkerbell and the Castle, that opening.
Correct. It did not. No. It only had the touchstone and then the like lightning bolt that happens on it. And the other film that's similar to that, where it's like been adopted by Walt Disney Studios Pictures, is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's the only other one that's like been taken out of its original umbrella and moved.
Okay, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That one, that is the first movie we've mentioned so far in our discussion of scary kids movies that did scare me as a child.
Oh my god!
When he like the dip and he
dip. Yeah. My god.
Yeah. But I think this, I was trying to think about this. My nephew is 6 and is in kindergarten or is about to turn 6. And I think he could watch Nightmare Before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. You definitely want to have like lights up and an adult in the room, and he could stop if he wanted to, but I think he would enjoy it.
Yeah. Because it's also the other thing too, like that's why I think it's not scary. I think the scariest part is probably Oogie Boogie, to be honest. But like,
yeah,
it's really just the like how the people in Halloween Town look. But like, they're all kind of just like
they're all
villagers
goofy.
in a town.
Yeah.
Like there's not like anything scary happening. They're all just kind of like look crazy.
Yeah, and I think Oogie Boogie is as threatening as most Disney villains.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
Like, he's not,
so yeah,
he's not extra weird or anything.
Yeah.
Facts and figures. This movie is directed by Henry Selick. The screenplay is by Caroline Thompson, who was dating Danny Elfman at the time. And the original adaptation was by Michael McDowell, who ended up not being able to like finish a script for the film, which is why the screenplay is by someone different. The story is originally by Tim Burton, based on the poem by Tim Burton. And it's produced by Tim and Denise Denovi. It's starring Danny Elfman as the singing voice of Jack Skellington, as well as Beryl. Chris Sarandon is the speaking voice for...
Sarandon.
I saw someone say that he pronounces his last name Sarandon.
Oh, weird. But Susan Sarandon is his ex-wife. Okay.
I know.
Okay.
Which is like, I don't know if that's why they're specifically like not, I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
So either Chris Sarandon or Chris Sarandon, whoever cares, who knows? Not us. He is the speaking voice for Jack Skellington. Catherine O'Hara, the great
Queen. And you'll remember the name, Herb Erblinger.
Come taste the difference good fruit can make in your wine. You'll remember the experience, and you'll remember the name, Herb Erblinger. Bert Herngreif. Irv Herblinger. Bing Livehanger. Liveling. Bert Herkern.
Yeah. You most notably, I guess, now known as Moira, but like before Schitt's Creek, probably Kevin's mom from Home Alone.
And Beetlejuice.
And Beetlejuice, Lydia's mom in Beetlejuice. So Catherine O'Hara plays Sally, and she also plays Shock, the witch in the trio. William Hickey, I think, is the mayor, if I remember that right. Glenn Shaddix. Oh, no, I'm sorry. William Hickey is Dr. Finkelstein. Glenn Shaddix is the mayor. Paul Rubens, a.k.a. Pee Wee Herman, is the voice of Locke. Ken Page is Oogie Boogie, and Ed Ivory plays Santa and the narrator at the beginning of the film.
Which, if you click Ken Page's IMDb, you will see that a past credit of his was Old Deuteronomy in the recorded version of Cats.
Oh, in the 1998 Masterpiece Classic.
So there you go. We've made our first link on our new revival cast.
The Showgays cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Marvel has nothing on us.
Marvel has nothing.
Cinematography is by Pete Kozaczyk, edited by Stan Webb, music by Danny Elfman, animation by Joel Fletcher, Owen Clady, Angie Glocka, and Justin Cohn. The production company was Touchstone Pictures, distributed by Buena Vista Pictures. Release date was October 29th, 1993. The running time was 76 minutes.
Love it.
The budget was $24 million, and then its original run, the box office was like $50 million. And then in subsequent re-releases has gotten all the way up to 91.5, which is like insane that a movie that is like available in a time where not just like streaming, but like access to a hard physical copy of something and you can like just purchase it, still will make money when they show it in theaters. Like, I think it speaks to the cultiness of this film, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always like finding out who could have been in it, and the only ones I saw was they wanted originally Vincent Price.
Should be great.
Which would have been incredible. They wanted him for... What do they want him for? Finkelstein? No, Santa? Santa. They wanted him for Santa.
I was assuming it would be like Jack Skellington, but I love it even more if he's Santa.
I like the juxtaposition there if he was Santa.
Yeah, Vincent Price is the one wholesome character.
Yeah. But I guess it's actually really sad. I guess his wife had just died.
No.
And he had like started, once his wife passed, I guess his health started going bad, and they had done like a bunch of like audio recordings of him, and he like sounded sick and sad, and they were like, we can't use these at all.
Yeah.
But the movie ends up coming out like days after he passes, which is like really crazy. Wow. James Earl Jones was also considered, and Patrick Stewart technically did the narration for the prologue for the soundtrack, and there's an epilogue that he does too, where you find out Jack has 5 skeleton children. It's very strange. But that was not used for the film, and instead they used the guy who did Santa's voice, who was just like a local voice actor in the Bay Area.
See,
which is so crazy.
Local work you never know what local work could get you. You did have a note here. It's like the opening weekend of other movies. Is that true? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy that this came out the same weekend as Cool Runnings and Rudy.
Cool Runnings, what a great movie.
I know, I was about to say.
Well, yeah, so the top 5 of the weekend that this movie went wide was, number 1 was Beverly Hillbillies, which is like,
I guess they made a movie?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Which is like, I can't imagine a world. That was like the same time where there was a Flintstones movie.
Oh, yes.
They were like
Rosie
doing
O'Donnell,
a lot of like 60s TV show, Brady Bunch, the Brady Bunch movie.
Yeah.
They were doing that whole thing. Demolition Man was number 2. Nightmare was number 3 in its second week, technically. And Cool Runnings was number 4. And Rudy was number 5. This movie. My initial feeling about this movie is that it is a very good film, and I do understand why it has some of the appreciation it has. I don't know if I get the full thing. But I also think it's like a movie that is style over substance, and I don't mean that as like as a mark against it or whatever. I just mean like the things you remember about this movie are literally the visuals, probably maybe the music if you like listen to it a bunch, and like not the story at all, other than like the general thing of like Christmas and Halloween happen at the same time.
Yeah.
But like the details of the plot are just like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it's an intentionally sort of thin plot because that kind of helps it be this cult classic movie where it is the visuals that we're appreciating, because if the plot was too sort of like messy or contrived, like that would sort of almost take away from the experience, right? But we started talking about this before the podcast and I said we have to keep it. But I was surprised rewatching this movie how much of it is sung. I sort of thought maybe this would be one of our movies where there's like, we're calling it a musical, but there's like only a few songs in it. But it's like, it's a lot of it is sung through. But the only song that I ever remember from this movie is This Is Halloween. And it's because it's like very repetitive and people will play it around Halloween time because there's not a lot of Halloween songs.
Yeah.
So my question is like, why is this music not more memorable? Because it functions so well in the movie. There was never a time where I was like, I'm bored of this song, or like it's not working well here. But I like can't sing any of it for you now.
Yeah, for me it was like the certain songs that are catchy obviously is what's memorable. So like you said, like the repetitive This Is Halloween, I really think like What's This is also very memorable, like to me. And then my favorite song is the Lock, Stock, and Barrel song.
Kidnap the Sandy.
Kidnap that Sandy. But it's like, for me, as I was watching it, yeah, it's like I didn't remember how good the music is until I'm watching it. I'm like, this is really good. Like for me, it was really firing up all of my wordplay, like ASMR triggers from Sondheim. Like just the way that it's like rhymed, like it was just really clever.
Well, yes, I would say the biggest problem that it's very hard to remember and like memorize in that same way is like it does not follow the standard verse chorus bridge chorus.
Yeah.
Like this music is so all over the map. The lament, like both Jack's lament and Sally's song have like a tune that like repeats through it.
Yes.
But like none of the
it's just
it
like
doesn't come back in any way. Like they are actual like almost soliloquy songs.
Yes,
where
they are.
Like
yes.
are full thoughts that they're just like singing.
Gave me full carousel soliloquy of just like I am just exclaiming with fervor and music.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely a part of it too. And like, yeah, I would say it's probably This Is Halloween, What's This, Kidnap the Santa Claus, and then maybe Oogie Boogie Song are like the four that like I could pick out and be like, oh, I remember this moment. But like Jack's Lament, and then like Poor Jack, that's basically the same song.
Yeah.
Oh, somewhere deep inside of these bones, an emptiness began to grow. There's something out there far from my home, a longing that I've never known. I'm the master of fright and a demon of light, and I'll scare you right out
It kind
of
of
your
makes me
pants.
think of like just the not expository, but like even in Cats, where it's like we're telling the story through like a rhythmic song. Yeah, it's like in verse with like a melody, but it's not like, you know, like a traditional song. So I don't know if it's like, what is that, like music being served more as like a narrative device, or like it's like taking over, like, you know, obviously like dialogue to explain what's happening. Like maybe
Yeah, it's
that's
sort
why
of
it's
like
not memorable.
It's like recitative in opera, which is where it's like we're singing the words, but we're just progressing, versus an aria where it's like I am now doing a song.
I'm gonna stop and do a song.
Yeah. That's interesting. I also was wondering if it was in part because I feel like at times the music kind of sways more towards orchestration for a movie soundtrack than like musical theater. And I feel like we don't have quite as many like sweeping emotional moments as when I was thinking about the songs in Disney Renaissance films that are like everyone can sing Part of Your World, or like the opening to Beauty and the Beast, right? And I feel like part of that is that we have the big moments in the bridges in the middle where everyone wants to like belt it out, and I don't feel like these, well, there are emotional moments for the characters and we're like getting to know the characters. They kind of don't have the same swells in them, maybe.
Yeah, like re-singability. Like there's no like
yeah.
There's only like they also only do one reprise and it's at the end, and it like isn't even so much a reprise as this is like it's the end, so here's your curtain call number of all the songs we sang in this film earlier. Which I think reprises also help the audience like remember specific motifs. But I think Danny Elfman is so good at the scores he does. Like I think I was listening to this soundtrack today and I was like, just the songs alone that are just score in the background are just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And they pull in all the themes of the songs and just like rework them as like there's this like harp that happened. It's very enjoyable to listen to because it's like it's so smart and it's so well done, and it's like a full like 40-piece orchestra that's like doing it. It's so pretty.
That is interesting, like what you said, Molly, that it is songs as score. So like that is how it's used and how it like how it's built.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's great musical scoring and only maybe okay musical theater composing, but it isn't musical theater ultimately, so that's not really a knock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could this be movie musical as its purest form? Because it's like fully like using music in the movie form. You know what I mean? Like if you were to define a movie musical like at its core.
Well, I also want to say that it's also very smart, because the other thing it does that is like incredible is What's This specifically, which is like my favorite song, and probably because I'm more of a Christmas person than a Halloween person.
It's also kind of like not the wishing song, but it's the like
Jack's Lament is his like wishing.
Yeah, that's true.
What's This is like the brilliance is like the song sounds like the place in which the story is happening. Like it sounds like Christmas, which is like very easy to do. You literally just put jingle bells in the background and you're like, oh yeah, it's Christmas. But I think the upbeat nature of it, they talked about in that background documentary where they were like trying to get Disney on board with like once they started the project so that they wouldn't like pull the plug once they realized there's gonna be like 3 years worth of fucking Photoshop over here, a literal shop of photos. Is they did the first bit they did was they did What's This and then showed them that because they were like, it's the most Disney thing that we do in this film, and they're gonna eat it up because it's that's what it is. I'm gonna play a little bit of it because it's so good.
What's this? What's this? There's color everywhere. What's this? There's white things in the air. What's this? I can't believe my eyes. I must be dreaming. Wake up, Jack. This isn't fair. What's this? What's this? What's this? There's something very wrong. What's this? There's people singing songs. What's this? The streets are lined with little creatures laughing. Everybody seems so happy. Have I possibly gone daffy? What is this? What's this? There's children throwing snowballs instead of throwing heads. They're busy building toys and absolutely no one's dead. There's frost in every window.
I just really like it. I also really like Christmas Town. I really like, and we can get into like the design aspect of this film too, and we definitely have to, but the Christmas Town like being like basically a Dr. Seuss town is like so smart, and it's like so on the nose but not in like annoying way, in like because it's so juxtaposed with the like German expressionism that's in Halloween Town that it like it works so well.
Yeah, that was a quote that I pulled from that behind the scenes, that Tim Burton's style is German expressionist combined with Dr. Seuss. And I felt like that was the most apt description I've ever heard of Tim Burton's style.
Yeah. It's so specific. It's like there's nobody, you can't, it's hard to like even, I mean, people can like copy it, but it's hard to like,
I would say
nail it down.
I mean, Edward Gorey's illustrations, I think, are very similar to Tim Burton. I think he's very obviously heavily influenced by that. But since Gorey worked in Two Dimension, I can't think of any filmmakers who are doing a similar thing to Tim Burton, right? And I also feel like this movie to me is like quintessential Tim Burton. It is to me the most Tim Burton thing Tim Burton's ever done.
That was the note that I made while watching it. I was like, this is kind of like at his best. And like, I wonder if it is like, is he better served in an animated world because he can go full on creative? Which like, I mean, like, you know, Edward Scissorhands and Beetlejuice are still effective, but I feel like the more movies that he make, I feel like it's like, I don't know, it's better animated.
Well, it's also Tim Burton's thing is like he loves a fish out of water story.
Yes.
And he loves like, he always comes back to there's like a space that we are placed in a setting that's like not normal. Like it looks very different from what is normal. But at some point in the movie, there's always going to be a moment where you see like what the normal is. And it's always very plain.
Yeah.
Like they do it in Edward Scissorhands. He does it in it's every movie he has like a moment where he's like, look how boring the normal world is after you've spent an hour in like this crazy universe. And now you're like going, like it happens in this movie when Jack is like going throughout the actual world, like delivering gifts. And everything is like right angles. every chair is like in a corner. Like it's like very boring to look at, which I think is like kind of smart and fun.
Yeah. Well, I also read a few essays to prepare for this, all in a book called The Philosophy of Tim Burton, which talked about aesthetics, which made me happy because that was the class in which we all became friends with each other in college.
We all commiserated together in aesthetics.
Yeah. So Jennifer McMahon, who is also like the editor of the whole volume, wrote an essay about uncanniness in Tim Burton, and her argument is basically that part of it is because of that animated setting, and like you're talking about like kind of the funky angles and stuff like that. And we also talked about how like you watched it as a child and it's very clearly like in an unreal space. And her argument is basically like, we're made very uncomfortable by confronting our own death usually, but Tim Burton manages to have these very like macabre images and like make it acceptable and make people want to watch it because it's so like fantastical and because it's animated, and we associate animation in our culture with like things that are safe for kids, and so it like gives us a sense of security, just the fact that it is animated in and of itself, which is also why I think, I mean, maybe you could do a stage adaptation, but only because we would be thinking of the animated version while watching the stage adaptation, right? But I feel like the whimsy of the way that the characters move and how their world is constructed, and like Sally's arms like coming off and stuff, I feel like it has to be in that world of animated stop motion, like otherness, in order for it to really work on all these levels.
Yeah, I mean, we could just spend like a full block just talking about how all the characters move. I feel like just watching Jack Skellington move is so entertaining, so unique. Like him and his fight with Oogie Boogie, with his just legs fully like daddy long legsing. But then even like all the other, I really like the villagers in Halloween Town. They're all so weird and unique, and they all move and talk so differently, like so goofy. I just wanted to watch them.
It's so interesting too because they are essentially the chorus of the film.
Yes.
And almost every musical has a chorus that all looks similar. Like they all like kind of are supposed to like form one unit as chorus, and you're not supposed to be able to like, distinguish any of them. But this is like a chorus you can specifically point to where it's like they all have specific characteristics, and they are all characters.
They're all visual gags. Like they're all
I mean, they're all like different shaped bodies of like they're not even like people in different clothes. It's like one of them's just a head, you know, like it's very different. That's a great point. I mean, the color palette of Halloween Town is very unified, and apparently that was part of also the creative vision, was like it's black, white, and orange, and like those are the only tones you can work in, or not tones, colors you can work in. And so I feel like that's kind of cool how they used the colors to make them cohesive, of like these are all from the same place, but they're all incredibly visually distinctive characters.
I love the little vampire quartet. That was probably my favorite little like.
Oh, the trio, you mean?
Yeah, the little barbershop vampires. I think
I love the like. There's like a chorus number after Sally has I think like sent Jack the wine or something, where the villagers start talking, and the vampires start because then the sun comes up as they're singing, and they have to make
and then they have little umbrellas like later on.
There is like a very classic animation thing that this movie has, where like there is not a wasted shot in terms of like there's something always happening, and there's probably a gag, especially if it's with the villagers in Halloween Town.
Because if it takes you a week to make a second of filming, you've got plenty of time to think about what's going on in that shot, baby.
I mean, if we're talking stop motion, like Molly posted the link of Parks and Rec. That's truly all I think about now when I think of stop motion. And he's just like, I spent 3 days working on this.
I gotta drop it in.
A press person could make this.
I gotta drop it in. It's so good.
It's so good.
Yes.
Should we? I think that song that you're referring to is Jack's Obsession, Molly. With the like villagers wondering what is going on with Jack.
Yeah, so. It was giving me very like. There's that song in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend where there's like, who's that new guy? Like it's
Oh,
that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just and even
Or
in
Where's Rebecca Bunch?
yeah, Where's Rebecca Bunch? Or they even do it in My Fair Lady, like all the servants
Oh, yeah, yeah.
before the rain in Spain.
Something's up with Jack, something's up with Jack. Don't know if we're ever going to get him back.
He's all alone up there, locked away inside.
Never says a word. Hope he hasn't died.
Something's up with Jack, something's up with Jack.
I do want to talk about Sally because the romance aspect of this film that really has blown up in the cultiness of this film. It doesn't work for me. I like Sally as a character.
Yeah.
And I think this might be Catherine O'Hara's most understated performance of her entire career.
Yeah.
Because it's so simple, and like when she sings her song, like she's not a singer, but it's so sweet.
Yeah.
It is shocking how quickly you can attach to a character who has virtually nothing to do in a movie, and yet like she was like the only person I like felt genuine like care for in like a real way, that I was like, oh, I hope she gets whatever she wants, even though like you don't want him, girl. He's awful.
He doesn't even know you're there.
Jack
girl.
doesn't know you exist. She kept calling him my dearest friend, and I was like, he doesn't know who you are.
My dearest friend, what's your name again?
To be fair, vast improvement from her husband daddy character who made her.
Yeah, creator.
So Dr. Finkelstein, from what I read, is supposed to be like, she's like his daughter. Like he created her. She's like a daughter taking care of an elderly father, basically.
Yeah.
It's like the idea. So
your mind stuff.
But the other thing too that was weird was like when they were like coming up with like finalizing the story, was they came up with this draft where Oogie Boogie was actually Dr. Finkelstein, and that's why he was like trying to like get Jack out of the way because Sally liked Jack. But then Tim Burton was so mad at that idea that he kicked a hole in a wall.
Oh my god!
Because I guess in his mind, they're all just like these characters. There's not like there's
no twist.
There's no B plot.
Yes.
There's no B plot.
There's no like nefarious like twist. Yeah.
I don't know that I follow. Why would him being Oogie Boogie give him more motivation though to keep her away from Jack?
It just felt like
it makes the villain something more interesting.
There's just a twist
than
in it
bag
then.
of
Yeah.
bugs.
I mean, when it came
Which
to
gross.
Dr. Finkelstein, that was his name.
Dr. Finkelstein is his name.
It just felt like he was like, just be like a good creature and just stay at home. Like you're not ready. Like he kept being like, you're not ready. You're not fully formed yet.
Can I also say, Finkelstein, stop letting her cook you food.
I know.
Learn how to cook.
Learn how to cook.
Just
Easy
make
math.
your own soup, bud.
Make your own
not
soup,
that
make your own
hard.
tea.
Soup is so simple.
Also,
that's why every culture
The
does it.
commitment to gender roles. It's like, would you please stop poisoning me? Because I don't know how to make any food for myself.
Also, you have Igor also working in your payroll.
Yeah, who appears like halfway through the film. You're like, there's another person that could be doing all this?
So you fully didn't really need Sally around. Like she wasn't like your assistant or anything. She was just like a not fully baked person yet.
But I would like to say, here's my one like, I had a really smart take on this, which is that Finkelstein moves in the direction of only caring more about himself because he ends up making a creature that is just like another version of him in the end to replace Sally, whereas Jack is so I guess they're both moving towards themselves. Jack is trying something different and then learns to embrace who he is as a result of that. So I do feel like we do see them take sort of diverging paths, and so to the extent that Sally's story, congrats, is about her picking between two men, but like
Good job.
But like to the extent that maybe there's something interesting happening there, we do see Jack grow in a way that Finkelstein is like choosing to go in the opposite direction of growth. And so like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, really what intrigued me the most about Sally is just her character design. Like, the fact that she is a Frankenstein creature, that she is built up of different things. So, yeah, when she was trying to escape the tower by just fully flopping face first on the ground and then just like, okay, well, now I can open my eyes and grab my arm and, grab
And then
my
it pays
pieces.
off in the climax when she uses her leg
her
to
leg,
distract
Uses
yeah.
her
Oogie
leg
Boogie,
so
and then uses her
good.
hands to untie Santa. So I
Yeah.
thought that
So
was
good.
great.
Yeah.
It's very clever. And I guess like in the original designs, she was more buxom. She was like a little bit more Jessica Rabbit than what she is now. And
Oh, I'm glad they pulled back. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't
Caroline Thompson, who did the screenplay, she wrote most of like the Sally aspect of the film into it, because most of that is like not, it's mostly script as opposed to like songs, because she
Yeah.
really only gets obviously Sally's song. And she said she was like, I feel like when I started writing it more timid than I think what they were originally intending for Sally is when they changed the character design. And she was basically saying like, I saw myself in Sally, and I don't see myself as like the pretty girl that they were trying to design. I see myself as like someone who's in awe, because she was like dating Danny Elfman, so she was like, I saw myself as someone who was like in awe of someone who's like very talented in like a certain way. Da, da, da.
I mean, I'm not sure it's progress for women, but
No, it's not at all.
But at least a woman wrote the story, so I will give them that the woman actually was like, at least it's based on a real woman.
What will become of my dear friend? Where will his actions lead us then? Although I'd like to join the crowd in their enthusiastic cloud, try as I may, it doesn't last. And will we ever end up together? No, I think not. It's never to become, for I am not the one.
Does that get any points?
It is crazy. Musicals are really bad with women, just in general. And yet, most people who like watching them and being in them are women, which is really crazy.
Famously, too many female actors to be.
But I think I now this is raising this question for me of like, would I rather be portrayed as Jessica Rabbit or Sally? And I think I'd rather be Jessica Rabbit, honestly.
Yeah.
Jessica Rabbit commands a room, maybe not for the most admirable reasons, but like she's got some oomph to her.
She's not bad. She's just strong that way.
She's just strong that way. I would like to, Adam, returning to your initial prompt of the romance being something that like sort of became a focal point of the movie. Mm-hmm. I feel that is because Jack Skellington is somehow a sex symbol and not because of Sally.
Okay, let's get into that. What is so sexy about Jack Skellington that is currently making emo girls still wet to this day?
I would say that I don't know. And also why. Those are my two thoughts on Jack Skellington being
You know what? He kind of gives me like a Jared Leto vibe, which shouldn't be good.
I think I genuinely think what it is like he is a character that is very reflective and contemplative. And if you are a person at an adolescent age who doesn't see a lot of men portrayed that way or do that ever, it can be very alluring to be like, this is a different type of person.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I think people say that like Jack Skellington is sexy, I think it's more that it's like he has inward,
feelings. Yeah.
Even though most of it is like he thinks he's the best and should do everything, even though that makes no sense.
Oh my God, his moment in the graveyard when he's like, well, I did hurt a lot of people, but at least they'll remember who I was is peak white man. I can't believe that is the lesson that he draws from this entire experience. Anyway, I do think, I guess actually not anyway, on that same topic, there is a bit of an enduring appeal of the skinny white boy, right? Which I feel like Jack Skellington is like the epitome of.
The epitome.
And
Just
I
another
linked
unrealistic expectation of bodies from Hollywood.
Bodies
My
from
God. The thigh gap on this man.
I linked in the show notes, and I linked in the Google Doc, and I'll put it in the show notes, the SNL skit, the Mr. Chicken Leg sketch where Pete Davidson plays Jack Skellington as part of it. And I feel like the metatextual part of SNL is that anytime Pete Davidson plays a character, he's meant to be sexually appealing because of his like presence in the culture as this like bafflingly appealing man, right? That like almost married Ariana Grande. And so to me, that is like a continuation of this idea of like women love Jack Skellington for some reason. So I think, Adam, I think that the reflective thing is there. But I think there's also something to the aesthetics of this like tall, skinny, brooding man that is like,
the Timothy
I don't
Chalamet.
know.
It's the Timothy Chalamet. I just watched Dune yesterday.
Short, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, he's a little short. I watched Dune yesterday, and there is that like appeal. I think I would say like his probably closest one was probably like Adrian Brody, like that type of tall, skinny, brooding. I mean Adrian Brody is traditionally handsome. He's got a jaw that can slice cheese, but yeah, it's that like dark brooding appeal that we let him have so many passes. Like we let Adrian Brody get away with a lot of stuff just because of how like sexy he was.
And it's the other thing too, where it's like it's not the normal sexy, or what is like the ideal normal sexy. Like it's like there's also, it's like, I don't want to use the word fetishization because I don't think that's what I actually mean, but just like the allure of something, of you feeling like, well, I don't like the normal thing, so that's why it's like a little bit more intense because like blah 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 blah.
Let's talk about scene kids now. Okay, so like I apologize as a person who was never in the subculture. I recall as a young person thinking it was pretty dumb to be like, I am rebelling in the same way as everyone else is rebelling. I thought it was a little bit silly. But I think that there is something to also when we talked about how it's like it's the spooky but not scary category, right? Where it like reveals something to me about the culture that was like, I like things that are like dark and twisted, but like the epitome of that is Tim Burton. Like, come on, guys. It's hardly like the most brooding, problematic like hero that you could pick to like make into your ideal man here. Like he's I mean, he's got some problematic white man issues, as I said, but like he's hardly like, I don't know, it's not like everyone's in love with Jigsaw from Saw or something. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna be like, oh, I truly have unusual taste, then like you gotta lean all the way in, or else I'm not interested in why you're special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love Michael Myers is so hot.
Yeah.
I will make a disclaimer for our audiences that we follow rules very strongly. As three rule followers and on paper good kids.
My favorite musical is Sound of Music, so I don't know what to tell anybody here. Listen.
I was home for curfew every single night because what else was I doing?
Yeah.
So I couldn't think of another henchman song. And I think I really like the song a lot. Obviously the wordplay and like just
so
the creative like whatever, because it's a list song. They're also like fighting and talking, so they're the let's draw straws, like it's like kind of like servicing two things. But yeah, as I was watching it, I was like, this is like if Flotsam and Jetsam had a song where they could be like, we're doing the dirty work. Like I don't know, it was just so fun.
I guess you could say Gaston is a henchman song and that LeFou is singing most of it. But the topic is Gaston. It's not about LeFou doing LeFou stuff. Also, I've never seen or listened to Young Frankenstein. but I feel like that's a
they
likely
have a duet,
candidate.
but he doesn't have like a
He doesn't
song
have
on his own.
No, he doesn't really have a
Yeah,
song.
but I think you're right in terms of like, here's a song about why we love being henchmen so much. I think this might be unique.
Well,
It's just a funny concept.
The greatest comedy of the entire thing is that they're like, let's kidnap the Santa Claus, and they're listing the ways that they will go about kidnapping him. They'll drug him, they'll beat him, they'll basically maim him to an inch of his life.
I've got something. Listen now. This one is real good. You'll see. We'll send a present to his door. Upon there'll be a note to read. Now in the box we'll wait and hide until his curiosity entices him to look inside, and then we'll have him 1, 2, 3.
Kidnap the Santa Claus, beat him with a stick. Lock him up for 90 years, see what makes him tick. Kidnap the Santa Claus, chop him into bits. Mr. Oogie Boogie is sure to get his kicks. Kidnap the Santa Claus, see what we will see. Lock them in a cage and then throw away the
And then all they do is they like trick or treat him and throw him in a bag, which is like the best part. They don't do any of the things that they said. So basically, it's like a pointless song, but it's so the visual of like them in the clawfoot tub walking around.
Yeah,
that's very fun.
The tub was great. Also, like just the idea that these three are like three demented trick or treaters. As a concept is just so fun because they were just annoying, but then also like really unclear. Like, so they are working for Oogie Boogie, or they're just like, we just go. Who's the meanest?
This is where the plot falls apart. You just don't need to worry.
Because I was like, why are they supporting Oogie Boogie and Jack? But Jack trusts them enough to
why
give
is
them
Oogie
a test.
Boogie not there? Why is he not allowed in the town? What's wrong with Oogie Boogie?
No, I think that's actually, I don't think it's a plot hole. I think it's interesting that there are layers to evil in Halloween Town, and everyone is like evil, quotation mark, Susan Sontag, but like only Oogie Boogie is truly evil, and
Sally
everyone
is performing
reacts to him.
Zombie. She's performing Frankenstein's monster.
Right.
Quotation marks.
But like everyone is like, ooh, and Jack's like, don't involve Oogie Boogie. So I think it's actually really cool that it's like, it actually helps you understand how Halloween Town is like spooky but not really scary, because like Oogie Boogie is like real evil. And I love that Lock, Stock, and Barrel are like chaotic children. And so they just like haven't decided on their moral alignment yet.
Yes.
So to me, it's like they don't differentiate between Oogie Boogie and everyone else because they're like too young. And like, I don't know if they're literally young, but like that's their energy in the movie.
They're like full Gen Z. They're just going with whatever's like trendy. Like, oh yes, queen work. Like, let's just whatever.
Well, I also love
for Gen Z.
I also love that they are dressed as, Locke is dressed as like a little devil, and Stock is witch, and Barrel is skeleton. And they have masks, but then when they like take off their masks, they're like probably actually dead children. Like potentially, if you go into fan theories, like Barrel's lips are blue, so he probably drowned or froze to death. Shock probably was electrocuted, and that's why her hair is really frizzy. I don't remember what Locke's was. I think he was burned in a fire or something like that. They're all very obnoxious, and this is where the fandom like also is. You can think about other things. Go touch some grass.
They don't have a lot of stuff to go off of, to be fair. If that was my thing I had to write fan fiction about, I don't know what I would expand upon in this world.
I think the other thing too is like, the world is very well built, but it's easily, you can like make your own avenue, which I think is why it leads to a fandom that is the way it is, because you can put yourself in it in a way that like other movies are a little more narrow in their scope, so it's harder to do.
Yeah. I want to say before we move on from Lock, Stock, and Barrel that my favorite line around them is that they say to Jack when he asks them to kidnap Santa Claus, oh, we thought you didn't like us, and he doesn't correct them. He just keeps going.
That's how I am with children.
Know your place, kids.
My favorite line in this movie is when the guy in the skeleton band says, "Nice work, Bone Daddy."
Oh yes,
it is the best line in this movie, and Jack doesn't react. It's great. Oogie Boogie.
Oogert D. Boogert.
Oogert D. Boogert.
I'll start by saying I think it's disgusting that he's made up of bugs.
Yeah,
I
super
think that's
gross.
where I draw the line. That's where I denounce this movie. I think that's disgusting, and I don't support this movie anymore. So strong stance on bugs.
It doesn't. This is where truly Oogie Boogie, the Oogie Boogie of it all, is really where this movie kind of falls apart for me. Just in terms of like,
did it feel like they needed a villain?
Yes. So in the original poem, it's just Jack goes and does Christmas, realizes he's not good at it, comes back, and Santa's like, it's okay, you just need to do your thing and I'll do my thing. And that's what makes us special, is that we're so good at what we do specifically. And then like he helps bring Christmas to Halloween Town as like a treat to Jack, basically. But like this whole Oogie Boogie thing kind of was just developed as like, we need to make a 72-minute movie and there has to be like an act 3
put a villain in there. It does. Yeah, I do kind of see that. It felt like they were like, it's too hard to explain to kids, like hubris is the villain. Like the fact that this man thought that he could do something but couldn't. Like, what a concept.
Yeah, I'm going to make a defense of it going back to that essay I talked about where it's about how Tim Burton likes to embrace the fact that death is a part of life and to remind us of the fact that, you know, we'll all die. And so if you see Halloween Town as here is a place of death, but that doesn't have to be scary. And Oogie Boogie is a different thing from just spooky things. It's different from just skeletons and things that remind us of decay. This is actual evil. I think then on that level, it really works for me that like, we don't actually need to be afraid of Jack Skellington, but like Oogie Boogie is the only guy who's like actually evil.
I love that. I'm going to refute it by saying Tim Burton does not consider Oogie Boogie evil or the villain of this film. Which doesn't make sense.
Is it cultural appropriation is the villain of the film?
I don't know if I think in his mind there is not a villain of
like it's not a hero villain movie. Like it's
yeah, because Jack's not really the hero. I mean, like he's the protagonist that we're following.
Yeah.
But he's not like the
But
hero.
He's causing all the chaos.
He's
happening.
The agent of chaos.
Yes.
That's why the movie happens, is because he got an idea. Oogie Boogie just feels weird to me because there's not even like a line as to like why he's different, other than like you just get the sense that they think he's different in some way, but there's not even like even in The Little Mermaid, Ursula is like the outcast sea witch, and you're like, oh, because she's a sea witch and like she's the only one. Whereas I don't think this has that. And then also like I really don't understand the like casino gambling aspect thing of his set piece. I think it's visually really cool.
Yeah.
And like very fun to look at, and it plays in the song really well, but I don't understand it at all.
I don't know if they were trying to make some sort of like point of like what you said, like embracing death, and now this is the like the actual fear of, you know, like gambling with your life or like betting with your life. Like was there something there?
I guess I could go down the road of
him. I was just saying, also like him being called Boogeyman too. Like, was he also portraying like the traditional boogeyman fears and thoughts that we as a culture know?
I guess I could go down a road of like, maybe it's really about chaos. That gambling is a symbol of chaos, or it's a part of chaos. It's a way of enacting chaos. But I think it's just that like it's visually cool for them to be on a roulette table and stuff. I mean, it is. Yeah, I've been trying to think about it since I watched it a couple days ago, and like I just can't really come up with anything really cool about like here's what the gambling's all about. I also love, though, talking about the visuals of Oogie Boogie, that we transitioned to this blacklight visual, which really disrupts what we've come to expect of the film, where we're like, okay, we've got the kind of like drab Halloween town, then we've got the colorful Christmas town, and then this is like a totally new. I loved the way that the blacklight totally changed the aesthetics of what I was
Yeah.
seeing on
It
screen,
made it
which was
very
super cool.
psychedelic almost, yeah.
Yeah. It did make me
Um,
think also now of the shiny scene in Moana, but obviously
Yes.
that came out much later. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It has
mean,
that vibe for sure.
I do think the like him being underground, him being in the like quote unquote sewers, like there was a little Pennywise about it. So like it's almost like they could have made him like he's the one that everyone in Halloween Town is afraid of, because like they're still like, if this is still a world, obviously these evil people are still scared of something. But it's not like he was not. It's not like people feared him. It was just like, don't mess with him. He's bad. He's on the other side of the tracks. He's like, bad news.
So I also want to talk about he, like Audrey, which I think this does follow a similar trope of Little Shop of Horrors. He is coded as being black because they use Ken Page, who is a African American singer actor, for the voice of Oogie Boogie. And in research, I found out that Oogie Boogie's song specifically is based off a Cab Calloway song that is featured in a Betty Boop, Max Fleischer cartoon from the 30s, I want to say. So I can drop the song in here just so you can hear what it sounds like, and then I'll drop in Oogie Boogie's song so you can kind of hear how they're shockingly similar.
Folks, now here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a red-hot hoochie coocher. She was the roughest, toughest frail. Minnie had a heart as big as a whale. Hoddy, hoddy, ho. Hoddy, hoddy, ho. Hoddy, hoddy, hoddy. Hoddy, hoddy, hoddy. He-dee, he-dee, he. He-dee, he-dee. Hoddy, hoddy, ho. Hoddy, hoddy, ho.
He's ancient. He's ugly. I don't know which is worse. I might just split a seam now if I don't die laughing first. Mr. Oogie Boogie says there's trouble close at hand. You better pay attention now, 'cause I'm the boogeyman. And if you aren't shaking, there's something very wrong, 'cause this may be the last time you hear the boogie song. Whoa. Whoa. Well, if I'm feeling antsy and I've nothing much to do, I might just cook a special.
But I don't know what it means. I don't know if it's just like, this is just a cool aesthetic, and it's like very, I mean, musically it is so different from everything else that this movie has done, that I think that's why it stands out so much, is because it's so jazzy. It's
the chaos element again too. Like now I'm buying more into that chaos element.
We're buying what you're selling.
Chaos theory.
Yeah, I noticed it too and wrote down how this reminds me of Audrey too, where we've got a black actor, very deep voice, doing a song that's very clearly sort of from like a black genre of music. And my note is just like, I kind of want to track this now, and I wonder if anyone's done any like thing about like the
coding of like
man,
villain,
other villain kind of figure, because also Oogie Boogie is sort of similar to Audrey too, in that he does feel almost sort of alien to the world. I mean, like in some ways he makes sense because he's a monster like everyone else in Halloween Town, but like we were saying, he like lives in the sewer. He's like kind of visually different. It feels like he is of a different realm than the other people in Halloween Town, and so I just wonder if there's like, is it just the thing of like falling back on our biases and stereotypes, where the intention is not to be furthering a stereotype, but when you're trying to think about like something that is other and creepy, is it something where people pull on that kind of the way that like now, because of the Hays Code and the fact that gay characters could only be villainous because they had to be punished in the end if they were coded as queer, like now some of those traits are just like inherently associated with villainy as a result. And I just wonder if there's something also happening with that with blackness here.
Well, that's the thing. Like when you're doing essentially like films for a young audience, and you're trying to like keep it to basic storytelling, whatever. Yeah, like I think that like the queer coding and the race coding of the villains would be a really interesting thing to track. Just because like even if the thing I feel like Disney will make arguments for, it's like, well, we used like a real jazz musician, we like did research on like the jazz culture, like Princess and the Frog, we did research. We went to New Orleans. We researched like the voodoo and like making sure like things are blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah, but the you're still basing it off of like I don't know, like a really just like a trope or a bias that this has been something that people are already aware of and are used to,
and people are afraid of specifically. And actually, as I'm thinking about it more, I think we actually didn't talk about this in the Little Shop episode, that there's this shot in Little Shop where the plant is like feeling up Audrey 1.
Yes.
And it's a little like too reminiscent of the like black man preying on the white woman, right? Which is like kind of the origin a lot of those fears and a lot of lynchings.
Mm-hmm.
And also in this, it's like Santa Claus is like ultimate very white, very pure, right? Like I just wonder if there's some sort of like the character who is threatening the pure figure, if like we're still relying on something that makes that like a white black dynamic. I don't know. Seems slightly problematic, but I'm not canceling Nightmare Before Christmas. I just think it's something to be aware of as we watch.
Yeah, because all of these, everything comes from an inspiration of something else, obviously, and so when we've had a media consumption, at this point, this comes out in 1993. They start working on it. Let's say, I mean, he does his original concept in like the early 80s. You're still living with an entire life's experience of seeing media in all kinds of variety reinforce these specific ideas to the point that, especially at that time, like no one was discussing what those ideas were saying. In reality, they were just kind of like, oh, this is just these are the stories we tell. So I do think it's interesting to like look at it and be like, what is it really saying?
Yeah. I think also I would say probably in 93 people were talking about it, but in a different way than we would talk about it now, right? Like I don't want to say like we weren't aware that racism existed in 1993, but like probably not this kind of analysis. Was in the canon.
Well, and I think this level of nuance.
Yeah.
Too.
Are we ready to talk about the biggest thing about this movie, which is its fans?
Oh.
So the big thing that I kept coming back to, even as I was watching it and even after, and even, like having a conversation with Adam about it, it's that like it's a good movie. It
is a good movie.
The music is good.
Very tight.
Pacing's
great.
The character design we've already talked about. Movie, like just a technical feat.
Yep.
But for some reason, there I feel like is like a hesitancy within, like, I don't know, the zeitgeist or whatever, of being like, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think because the people who are diehards for this movie is like a scene, like kind of like, I don't know, just like weird, but not saying like all scene is weird, but just like they're the specific people that fully like will ride or die for this movie are, I don't know, has like a label to them.
I just want to say, I think I'm going to put a link to the Scene Kid Wikipedia page in our show notes just for our moms that are listening to this episode and are surely so confused about what we're trying to express here.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of reasons that this movie has such a rabid following.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something very theme parky about this movie.
Yeah.
I think in the way that like the towns are different, they visually are different. Every character looks different. Like there's something you can visually attach to very quickly. And I think that at the end of the day, this is a movie that's most movies for kids have a message, have a moral, if you will. And I think the one you're supposed to understand from this movie is that you can read it negatively as stay in your lane.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I was like, is this about staying in your lane? Like,
or you can read it positively as like being
yourself
is like what is important about you, which is like a lot of children's films goes down that trope. And I think if you combine those two, then you have that kind of like sticking power of people who see themselves in as like a Halloween type person.
That's true. Yeah.
And then this movie is saying, and it's okay, and that's why you're important, is because you are the Halloween type.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that, but like you're right. It's like, and Molly, you even said it, like we don't have that many Halloween movies. Like I think of the Halloween movies, like fun, spooky Halloween movies.
Can we talk about the other thing that is crazy about
those are all the movies that people who love Halloween.
This movie and Hocus Pocus came out in the same year.
Oh wow!
It came out in July, which is like
why?
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 Why did it come to Thanksgiving? That's obviously the time for it.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
and they're both like probably the two Halloween feature films that are not like horror films.
Yeah,
that like everyone thinks of.
Yeah,
I feel like I kind of already read Scene Kids already, but I will expand upon that, which is to say, being a Halloween person is not really an interesting personality trait. And I think that I am saying this, I know, as a near 30-year-old woman. And so obviously I've had lots of time to develop nuance to who I am as a person.
I think you are 30 at this point, Molly.
I think when this comes out, I'll definitely be 30.
Should you see the day?
Let me speak from my 30-year-old wisdom. No, I just mean, okay, like it's easy to be like, kids who are like 12 are pretty annoying with how they're developing their personalities. Because obviously it is annoying from an adult perspective where you're like, do you need to like have this much sort of like, I'm going to say this in a weird, I was going to say like in your face self-expression, which sounds like I'm against self-expression, which I'm not. But like this much categorizing of yourself, that's what's annoying about it. It's not the like, I want to express the way that I feel. That's awesome. But having to be like, there are Christmas people and there are Halloween people and there are different kinds of people. And I'm a Halloween person is like, guys, we can just all like, whatever. It's like I love Halloween too, but it's not like the most interesting thing about me as a person. And so I appreciate it as a stepping stone to developing humans who are learning how to be themselves. This is not the age of kids that I like working with. I'm sure you can tell from the way that I'm talking about it. Please give me a room full of first graders. But I just think that like I honestly, I think I do have a bit of a negative association with this movie for that reason, that it feels a little bit like it is a movie for people who must perform how unique they believe themselves to be because they like this extremely popular movie.
Ah. Adam, as a Christmas person, how do you
First of all, I am an
Well,
I'm an Easter girl. I love
Adam
pastels. Spring is my favorite season. I love Easter.
But do you watch the Azalea Maids every year?
I love the Azalea Maids. I think that's true. I think obviously there is the thing of like when you are at that age, you're
picking the one thing and running with it.
It's that, and it's also like the only way you feel like you can distinguish who you are is by juxtaposing yourself with everyone else around you.
Yeah.
And because education, the way it's formatted, is that you like traditionally probably follow the same people for like 12 years of your life. And you only see that like set group, and the group gets a little bit bigger as you like progress through your schooling. And so by that point you're like, how can I narrow down what I am so that I don't just become a mass of this blob that we all like know. And you're like figuring out who you are in general and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and I do think that Halloween is like the easiest one to kind of be like.
Well, and I think I genuinely think there is a thing where like I would say now that like the internet is as social media, the internet as like general concept is as big as it is that people I think are able to realize that there's more of like mindedness than like previously maybe they thought.
And I think now people are more nuanced. Like I feel like,
but that's like the whole thing of like when like true crime is having a moment. True crime is like she's the girl, and
everyone,
when people talk about being fans of true crime, they always talk about the fact that they were like, I always thought it was weird that I really liked looking up like serial killer facts, and now like I know an entire culture of people that like also feel the same way. And I think there is like the same with Tim Burton. I think it's the fascination of the macabre, of the dark, of the like the shadow side of the moon. That like what is that? Why does that exist? And I think that's the being more ponderous also leads like that's why they see themselves as a Jack, because they're questioning like why things are happening the way they are in like kind of like not a totally interesting way that they're questioning it, but like it is like I get it to a degree.
Like I said, I have sympathy in that it is often young people that are going through the phase of being really into it. I just feel like it's a little bit not like Other Girls, but like for everyone instead of just women, where it's like I'm different because I like have feelings, and also like sometimes I like scary stuff, and they're just like those are such universal human experiences. You come to realize as an adult that it's a little bit silly. And also I feel like part of the point of this movie is like you can love Halloween and Christmas, right? Like I guess that they live in different worlds and stuff, but like the reason this movie is fun is because both Halloween and Christmas are fun holidays.
Yeah. No, that's
not
true.
Not as fun as Thanksgiving, obviously, which is the ultimate celebration of this movie. But
I know, why did we not? When they showed Thanksgiving World's door, I was like, that's a little sus, because it was a pilgrim hat out front too, and I was like, oh no, what is going on in there?
Turkey.
It was a turkey.
No, but on the foot, like on the floor, it was like a pilgrim hat, like the little buckle.
Their little tokens.
Their little tokens on the actual foot of the door.
My closer question is about the other world, so let's put a pin in Thanksgiving World.
I know.
I think the reason this has a cult following is it's just like it's everything you could want if you feel a certain type of way. It's like it's Jack, it's the Jack and Sally.
Yeah.
It's the visuals. It's
Boogie if you like villains. Yeah. But I think like Molly's point of like the end of the day, the point is that Jack likes both Halloween and Christmas. And so I feel like that is the sticking point to me now too, of like, that's right. Like why is the cult following more like I'm a Halloween person because I like Nightmare Before Christmas, when the movie's point was like Jack likes both and he's able to appreciate both.
Yeah. We've figured it out.
You figured it out.
Does anybody have any last thoughts?
Are you gonna tell us the discourse, or you want last thoughts on purely
the movie?
On the film.
I think that's it. I think we've already talked about it, but I really like the visual bits. All the visual gags of this movie are so good.
Yeah.
When it came to the villagers, when it came to her cooking, when it came to him doing his experiments, like him writing on the chalkboard, like mistletoe plus cherubs equals Christmas. Like it was just so funny. And essentially like silent. Like it was just like scored of just him figuring things out, which I thought was very entertaining.
Yeah, I also like how stop motion necessitates recording the music ahead of time, side-eyeing Tom Hooper right now. I think that was a really great choice, that it was, synced up exactly to the music that was already recorded and had a pace that was consistent. I also think, RJ, you raised this at the beginning of like, is this the ultimate movie musical, like the best use of that? And I kind of love the idea that stop motion is somehow the best form to convey musicals in a movie. It's like not 2D animation, it's not filming people, it's stop motion exclusively is like the ultimate medium. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, like if you think about it, it's one of them. I mean, we've said it. It's the most labor intensive way to make a movie. But like it's so much care and precision. Like I mean, they're like Leica is a studio that still does it today. Like they make the effort of every film is a stop motion film, and they've gotten like so much more in like enhanced. Like obviously, like this is better than the Rudolph ones, but this still had the very like it was playing with a convention. You could see that it is stop motion,
but also
and made that movement in the movie, in the story.
I think sometimes the reason, and obviously there's the nostalgia aspect to it, but I think the reason the Rudolph ones and the ones in the 60s still hold up is like they're still really charming. They're still very charming to watch, and they're very sweet films. And I think there is just, I mean, this is like usually just children's films in general, or like films for young people, but there is like a sweetness to these movies that like you lose when you start to be like, well, how can we make it gritty? Like I think that's like kind of why this movie works so well too, is it's so simple that it like it is allowed to be 73 minutes and tells its full story and doesn't feel like it needs to like do 3 other things to like feel that you got your money's worth.
Yeah.
And that's really great.
Well, I also think it's interesting because stop motion allows you all the whimsy of animation and the like sort of like the suspension of disbelief that one needs for a musical, but it still lives in the physical world. And so like I care so much more about the way that Jack Skellington moves like a spider. That's so cool in a way that I think I wouldn't be impressed by it if it were 2D animation.
2D. Yeah.
And it does feel tactile because it is like the lighting, it all feels like it's actually there.
So in my continual quest for like great dance movies, I think this is another interesting way of capturing motion on film is through stop motion.
Yeah, that's true.
We have so many subsets of projects.
I could do 40 more minutes on like the technical aspect of this film and how crazy it is. Like they use 19 sound stages. They had like over 100 people working on this for 3 years. 1 minute,
so like one
minute of footage was 1 week of filming. And if you get a shot, you're halfway through. Like there's a like 800 frame sequence, and you're on frame like 750, and that frame messes up. You have to go all the way back to the beginning and start the entire sequence over, because it's not like cell drawn animation where you can just pull that frame out and redraw the frame. You have to start all the way over because you will never get those characters back in the same place. So you'll always have a break in your animation.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Wow.
And this movie does so many things that they never had done before. Like it has sweeping camera. The camera is constantly moving in this film, which is like the craziest part about it. And these sets are like massive. They built like trap doors so like the puppeteers could like, or the animators could like come up and like fix a thing and then pop back down so they wouldn't have to like crane in or anything. I mean,
well, that's what I was gonna say. Since they had so many sound stages, so they are life size, or they're all still like sort of miniature, multiple miniatures.
They're maquette size basically. Okay. So they're like the Halloween Town set was 24 feet long, which is like huge.
Yeah.
But it still was like the houses were like
and I guess that was like a charming part about it too. Like it is a built Halloween Town, so when you saw those like frames again, it's like it's so lived in because I'm directly looking at a physical thing.
That hill in the graveyard with the like rolling, I don't know what it is. It is so.
I mean, that's the icon. That's the iconography.
It's so
too
aesthetically pleasing to look at.
Yeah.
Full moon.
It's like the icon of the movie too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's really. I would recommend, we can like put it in the show notes. We can put the making of, because it's so cool to like see just even a little bit of it, because I just can't. Again, I can't imagine ever caring about something this much to like do it this amount.
But I think also part of why it works is that you can kind of see that effort on the film even without watching the behind the scenes. You can just tell that somebody worked so hard on this, and I think that's a big part of what makes it really enjoyable to watch.
Well, let's hear let's hear what the professionals have to say. Rotten Tomatoes has this
Okay,
at
you keep introducing this segment by saying what the professionals have to say. And I am like 90% of the way done with a PhD in theater. And I just want to say.
Well, let me know when you're done with that PhD and I'll change what I say.
Professionals, okay.
When you're getting paid to criticize movie musicals. When
Which
we
is the
start
goal.
getting sponsored, which is this week, because our sponsor this week, this is time for our
Hot
commercial break.
Topic.
Hot Topic. Everybody go to Hot Topic.
Use the offer code BROAP
Showgays.
:S.
You have to remember the colon, guys.
Yeah.
Are there still Hot Topic stores? Does that still exist in physical space like
Yes.
stop motion animation? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they still exist.
Malls still kind of exist.
I just was in a Hot Topic recently, actually.
To buy some vans.
No, looking for
BTS merch.
Looking for BTS merch.
Oh yeah.
And they had basically none. This is very frustrating. It's fine. Rotten Tomatoes has this at a 95%. Certified fresh. The Nightmare Before Christmas is a stunningly original and visually delightful work of stop motion animation. I also didn't realize that I saw that this is technically the first feature-length stop motion animated film. Because I guess that the TV ones were like TV length.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, TV length. That's a time frame.
Like 40 minutes or an hour, maybe?
Probably 40, yeah. Because I know that there is like a weird, in the like Oscars, there's like specifically a certain amount of time when a movie goes from being a short to a feature length film. But I don't know what that number is. I didn't do that research. New York Times, Janet Maslin says The Nightmare Before Christmas is a major step forward for both stop motion animation, which is stunningly well used, and for Mr. Burton himself. He now moves from the level of extremely talented eccentric to that of Disney-style household word. Which is true. This movie is like the first time they like build this as Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, and I think this is when it is like this is the brand Tim Burton.
Yeah, I was about to say that's why I was confused that he wasn't the director. So,
and the director, I have to look at his name again. I do apologize. Something Henry Selick. He basically has been on record by saying like he came to set like maybe 8 times in the 3 years we worked on this movie.
Wow.
But he also is like, but I basically how he describes it is that Tim Burton laid the egg and then I just sat on it and hatched it. I Hortoned the egg.
That doesn't sound like he sat on it very consistently, to be fair, but
just like a peak moments when it would be hot. Yeah. Peak moments where it would be the right temperature.
I'm just saying there's got to be somebody who is on that set every day who should be getting some credit for doing some heavy lifting. I would bet.
And was it Tim? Was it Helena Bonham Carter? Who was it?
Well, and then Henry Selick goes on to do James and the Giant Peach, also stop motion animation, and Coraline, which are also 2 very highly regarded pieces of stop motion animation.
Yeah.
I remember I owned James and the Giant Peach, and I watched it a few times as a kid, and I always thought I really liked it.
I feel like I need to read this director's like 4-hour work week self-help book that explains how I can do amazing artistic work with
100%.
very minimal actual physical presence. That sounds very inspiring.
For the Chicago Sun-Times, Roger Ebert said, working with gifted artists and designers, Tim Burton has made a world here that is as completely new as the worlds we saw for the first time in such films as Metropolis, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, or Star Wars. So, high praise for Tim. But what do the people say? Letterboxd. Stephanie. Letterboxd, by the way, I don't know if people know, Letterboxd is like a movie app where you can like review films. And it's like a social media app for like reviewing films, basically.
Should Showgays make a letter app profile where we and then link our episodes?
Stephanie gave this 4 stars and said, maybe I want a man as tall as Jack Skellington so I can literally climb his bones. Love that review. Sexy. Jack Skellington is sexy.
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I just don't get it.
Bailey, who gave this 4.5 stars, said, "This is one of my favorite Disney movies, and it made me who I am, parentheses, a bisexual."
That one I do get. That one I understand.
And Diamond Bolt gave this 1 star and said, "There are many things I thought Jack Skellington would sound like, and none of them were that." Which I think is very funny. I also didn't know that Danny Elfman was the lead singer of Oingo Boingo, the band. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that was a band until you just said it just now. So,
And the reason why he wanted to do
Jack's voice?
why he wanted to do Jack's voice is because he connected to the song so much, because it kind of is where he was at with his relationship with the band, that he like didn't want to be in a band anymore. Like he wanted to like move on to like being a composer, basically, is what I understand.
Art truly does imitate life.
Sure.
yeah, I think the much more generous reading of this is that it's about artistic stagnation rather than cultural appropriation. But I think it's about both ultimately.
It is funny, like we're talking about Halloween and Christmas as cultures, and that's him appropriate. Is that what you mean by cultural appropriation?
Well, I think that you can appropriate a holiday from a culture. I think that's often how it happens.
I think
it's one way in
did
which
that
it
to
happens.
pagans, in fact.
That's yeah.
And then I guess whatever the opposite of cultural appropriation sometimes happens with Christmas and people in America trying to insist that everyone needs to celebrate it for some reason.
Yeah, Jesus was born
Cultural
on this
dominance,
day.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that I think Christmas is at a point where it's, at least in America, it's so ubiquitous in the culture that it's just like an American holiday, as opposed to like I think there obviously is the religious connotation to it, but there is like more so.
It's transformed to an American version of it.
There are certainly people who have a secular celebration of Christmas, but we also shouldn't assume that everyone feels invited into Christmas or that they should all celebrate Christmas.
Yeah,
sure.
That's true.
And I also think in this movie, because they live in worlds that are around the holiday, I think you could argue that it is their culture as well. In the fake world of Halloween Town, Halloween is the entire culture.
And I didn't even talk about the fact that this movie is the first time Showgays has ever done a movie that has a theme park ride that is based off of it.
Oh yeah,
the Halloween the overlay that happens in the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland and in Tokyo, they literally change out the entire ride to be the story of The Nightmare Before Christmas.
And it's very
Cool.
good. Shockingly
very
very good.
Oh, I had this question. Did either of you run across anything? Did they talk about if the sequence in Fantasia that's called, it's like Night on Bald Mountain or something, was that influential? I felt like the shadows moving over stuff to me was very reminiscent.
Is that Chernobog?
That's Chernobog, yeah.
Okay.
Probably, if Night on Bald Mountain feels like the most German expressionistic of the Fantasia sequences. So I don't know, that might just be like a general similarity.
Yeah, that they're both pulling from similar things.
The ghosts, the ghosts feel very similar to works that are like very early Disney, like the drawn-on ghosts that like bring the gifts.
I was gonna say like the way Zero moves is very much like how those ghosts move, like the Fantasia ghosts.
His nose is a jack-o'-lantern. It's not just a glowing nose. I thought his nose was just a glowing nose, but it's actually a jack-o'-lantern.
Zero with your nose tonight.
Also,
Won't you guide my
sorry,
soul
Tim.
tonight?
That is you specifically took How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This is the How the Grinch Stole Christmas in reverse.
It's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is what it is.
No, it's this movie is literally taking
the Grinch.
The Grinch, who like is taking the holiday. It's the opposite, where Jack is like doing the holiday
because he loves it.
Yeah.
Versus the Grinch, who's like hijacking it. Which I just my favorite joke in the whole thing is when he's on the sleigh and they're shooting cannons at him and they're like they're
He's
celebrating
like,
they love me. Like I thought I fully cackled like, oh my god, amazing. The hubris. I should be so lucky to be that confident.
God grant me the confidence of a mediocre white man.
Yeah, a pasty ass, tall ass white man.
I also, before we move on, I do want to say one thing about this film, and I actually might.
Adam wants to defend white men really quickly.
Here's what I want to say. Listen.
Jack Skellington
is a hard time in the culture to be me.
It is.
It's really tough right now. I do think there is something very interesting that this movie does that they kind of talked about in one of the videos that I watched on YouTube. I don't remember which one, but there is like a classic thing in animation that like the eyes are the most important thing you draw, and the fact that Jack does not have eyes is like really surprising that it works as well as it does. He still like blinks, which when you think about it makes no sense. But they do
malleable bones.
Yeah, they do have him blink, but he is still so expressive with the area around where his eyes would be that it makes up for it. So I think that's like really cool. They were able to like pull that off. Because that's why Disney characters always have like the biggest eyes on the planet, is because like that's the most important thing you look at. So
yeah, that is cool.
The eyes are the nipples of the face, very famously.
All right, my closer is, if you had to make a sequel, I think we can agree that obviously Christmas and Halloween are the two most fun holidays to put together. But if you had to make a sequel that was a mashup that
don't speak
included...
for me, Molly.
Okay, well, it doesn't have to include Halloween or Christmas. But you had to make a sequel that was set in one of the other lands that he sees. And I think we can even just say like another holiday. It doesn't have to be one of the lands in here. So you can make Christmas and Halloween one of the mashups, but then the other holiday has to be a different one. Does that setup make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you could be like Halloween and St. Patrick's Day, or you could be like St. Patrick's Day and Valentine's Day or whatever. But it can't be Christmas and Halloween, obviously. So sequel with a different holiday centering it. What two holidays would you like to see put together?
I think like a logical one would be like Halloween and Valentine's Day. If it was a logical sequel, and maybe like Sally and Jack, maybe something about Sally like discovers Valentine's Day, and then she becomes the person who's like, I want to share this to like promote my one true path, which is just to be in love with a man. So I feel like that would be an interesting one, and you could probably bring in like maybe, but the thing is like, it would be interesting to see what's the aesthetic of Valentine's Day world? Like, is it just pretty people? Is it like Cupid, so they're all angels? Like that could be that could be a fun another twist to it, because I just feel like the other ones would be harder, obviously a harder sell.
The cameo of the Easter Bunny in this movie is very funny.
Yeah,
so large too. What a large bunny!
Very large bunny.
My God, and just Jack being like, "Sorry, sir."
Yeah. I don't know. It's so hard to pick what holiday I would do. I think one thing that I think would be cool is not that the same plot happens again where they take over another holiday, but that another holiday tries to do Halloween.
Oh.
And so then they become the Santa Claus, and like he gets kidnapped maybe, or something in that regard. But I don't know what I want to say St. Patrick's Day, because you would get leprechauns who are also very like tricksters typically. So I think you can have a similar energy in that way.
But haven't the Irish
suffered
dealt with enough?
Molly.
Oh my God, Molly.
Tell us, Molly.
Tell us, Molly.
Haven't you?
I wanted to say, okay, so my first thought was also what RJ said, that I was like, I feel like Valentine's Day is the other one that like I want to see Halloween like cause chaos in. But I genuinely want to see what's behind the St. Patrick's Day door. It's such a bizarre holiday to have been adopted by everyone. Like, I think it's just because nothing else happens in March that we've all decided like, we all do St. Patrick's Day.
Except Easter sometimes literally happens in March. Not often, but like, it's crazy.
It's a bad time of year. March is like the worst month weather-wise. So I think we just like need something happening. But it's such like no other culture in the US has its own holiday that is like celebrated to the degree that St. Patrick's Day is.
Well, Happy Columbus Day. That's all.
Well, okay. I think also putting on my like analysis hat, I suspect that probably St. Patrick's Day is a celebration of Irish people becoming white, which was also the origins of Columbus Day becoming a holiday.
Yep.
Yep.
So I would love just what I assume is just chaos of St. Patrick's Day. Like what is happening behind that door? So I think I would like to see a bunch of drunk Irish people doing Christmas. Not that I haven't seen that in real life, but I would like to see it animated by Tim Burton for sure.
Yeah.
I do like the idea that Christmas is always the one who Christmas is the girl. Christmas is the girl everybody wants to be, and she can't.
Christmas is the prettiest girl in
She's the prettiest girl in school. She's Regina George.
Yeah.
She's Elle Woods.
I couldn't think of anything funny to say.
Nothing to say. The other trees that are the doorways.
It was Thanksgiving,
Easter, Valentine's Day, and the 4th of July.
Oh!
Is 4th of July in the movie? Oh, okay.
You see it when you first come down, and you're lowering to the trees, but they don't do a close-up of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could also be fun to see Thanksgiving try to do Halloween, but I feel like Thanksgiving is tricky of are we getting into pilgrims and indigenous Americans?
But that'll just be confusing because Nightmare Before Christmas is already a Thanksgiving movie. So would they make a second Thanksgiving? It's just
ultimately the whole movie is set in Thanksgiving land, I think is obviously the sort of metatextual understanding you're meant to have.
Thanksgiving land is the 19 sound stages that produce Nightmare Before Christmas.
I think Thanksgiving. I think a sequel where Thanksgiving is the redheaded stepchild that people forget about between the middle child between.
So it is
Halloween
the villain. It tries to
No,
destroy.
They're like a war-torn country that has been decimated by the events of Nightmare Before Christmas. The sequel is the devastation that's been wrought in Thanksgiving land by this movie.
Yeah, I buy it.
Yeah.
D-Day.
What if when they were in the real world and he was delivering gifts, that was in Thanksgiving land? Is where he was delivering, because everybody's just at home with their family.
I will say the one potential plot hole that I noticed in this movie is that Halloween seems to happen only in Halloween Town, but Christmas happens in the real world. So I've decided my headcanon to solve it is that the opening number is their post Halloween celebration back in Halloween Town. It's the hey, we all did a good job, everybody, and it must have happened in the human world.
This is Halloween is taking place on All Saints Day because it's the day after Halloween.
Okay.
He just got back. He was torturing the world.
Okay, I completely missed this. There is a real world, and the different lands are just where home base had HQ for those.
I mean, that's how Christmas works. Yeah.
Oh, is that how? Okay, because I wasn't sure.
Because he delivers the presents. Yeah.
I just assumed all of that was happening in Christmas land. So it's
Christmas land. Christmas land is only what you see when he's in What's This? Because
I guess the visuals are different.
Specifically, the visuals.
Oh, they're not showing faces. It's just the elves and the workshops.
And Mrs. Claus is baking cookies. Very famous.
Famously another woman character. Finally. Okay, I understand now. Okay, I guess I just always assumed that was when he's delivering gifts. That's back in Christmas land.
What is the best song in this movie? What is it? Real quick. I'm going to say it's What's This?
I think this is Halloween because it's still the only one that I remember.
I think it's Kidnap the Sandy Claus. Just the idea that he thinks it's called Sandy Claus and they just run with it is so funny. It's such a good bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of good, not one-liners, but there's a lot of good jokes that are kind of cerebral, which is very fun. Great. Well, we did it, kids. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here, Molly and RJ. Thanks for talking about the quintessential Thanksgiving film, The Nightmare Before Christmas, with me. It was such a treat.
You're
trick
welcome.
or treat.
I'd say it was a treat.
I hope everyone had lovely meals together with some people that you love this Thanksgiving.
I hope Thanksgiving Land did a great job this year. And who was the Jack Skellington of Thanksgiving Land? A giant turkey?
An extremely skinny turkey.
Just
the longest neck.
Tall, pale turkey.
Pale, sexy turkey. played by Timothée Chalamet.
It's him in that new Wonka movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. It truly is.
It's not actually a Wonka movie. It's the sequel to The Nightmare Before Christmas, and it takes place in Thanksgiving. And it's not stop motion animation. It's live action. Because they knew the thing we liked about the movie, the thing we hated about the movie was that it was stop motion animation.
Oh yeah, we couldn't stand. I wish I was looking at a real skeleton.
All right, and on that note, I guess you can listen to the trailer for next week. I may have to find a trailer for this. There's got to be something. I'll figure it out. But thanks for listening, Bone Daddy.
Kidnap the Santa Claus.
Thank you for listening to the best revival of a podcast, Showgays. You can find us on social media. Adam is at Adam Noecker on Twitter. RJ is at RJ Food Rocks on Instagram. And Molly is at Molly Matiny on Instagram. This episode was edited and mixed by Adam Noecker. This has been an Ampliverse production. You can find our show page and more information at theampliverse.com. If you'd like to send us your own takes on the movie we just watched, reach out to us via email and we might read it aloud on the show. Our email is showgaysmoviemusical@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to help others find the show. And now, as always, the show must go on, so stick around to hear what we're going to be watching next episode.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell. Zing, zing, zing went my heartstrings. From the moment I saw him, I fell.
Meet Me in St. Louis is the tender, romantic story of the most popular young beauty of the early 1900s, of her crush on the boy next door. Of her lovable, yet at times humorous family.
If you like me like I like you, and we like both the same, I like to say this very day, I'd like to change your name. We will dance for hoochie coochie. You will be my tootsie whoopsie. If you will meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair.
Discovering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.